Hey, gang. Welcome to my third video ever in which I'll catalog the tools needed to make sourdough bread. We'll cover the importance of measuring by weight, not volume, using the right bowl. Hey, gang. Welcome to my third video ever in which I'll cover the basic ingredients and tools needed to make sourdough bread.
Okay, I may have missed an entire step along the way. I may have to recreate that because I had the camera on the wrong mode. Alright, so what I've done is I've made a what I'll call a gluten-friendly loaf here by taking 200 grams of flour and 200 grams of gluten-free substitute all-purpose flour, and combined it with 320 grams of water and about 7 or 8 grams of yeast and the appropriate amount of salt, which is about 2.5% of the total mass of the flour, which it worked out to be in this case. All right, I'm just going to scrape this down so I get all the good bits from the side, incorporate it into the dough, set that aside, and then I'm going to just pick this up and feel it. Alright, see how it's breaking apart like that? And so it's not quite there yet. It hasn't built up the structure it really needs. So what I'm going to do is just kind of clean off my hands a little bit more here. Good enough. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to give this a whole bunch of kneading folds. And this is just going to take what gluten there is in this dough, which doesn't have the usual amount of gluten. All right, I do that on camera. I'm just going to be doing this. Stop recording. All right, we're back, and this is turning out to be pretty gloppy and gooey, probably because of all of the tapioca flour and potato starch that's in the gluten-free mix. So rather than turn this out onto a bench, I think what I'm going to do is just continue to kind of do these types of folds and see if I can get this to really build up into something. I'm going to do this probably every 15 or 20 minutes or so, and I'll keep making recordings of the progress. As you can see, it's starting to come together, but it's still pretty shaggy. So we're back, and yeah, sometimes things don't go to plan. That's okay. The thing to learn from it is to keep going and adapt. Do the best you can. Sometimes the dough just doesn't behave the way you think it's going to behave. That's okay. It still will be delicious. It may not look perfect. That's okay. It's not the goal. The goal is to feed yourself better food and your family better food, right? And here it is. The final result of our experimental loaf. It's looking pretty good. Side of the oven. Ooh, that's up. Nice. Some good ears. We'll crack it open after it cools. Michael Pollan has always been a big hero of mine, and I excerpt something from his video here where he's asked, what's one thing that you can do to immediately improve your health?
Predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do.
A complex system of proteins forms when gluide and gluten get together when mixed with water, and what you end up getting are these fibers of gluten that fuse together, right? And then you overlay these sheets of fused together fibers on top of each other as you're folding the dough, and as the gas at a very microscopic level starts to eat the gluten, it's trapped in the elastic balloon-like structure that you've made just by mixing water with flour. I mean, think about how simple things can evolve into complicated patterns. Structure is how that happens, right? You think about what happens in the vast ocean, a really big ocean where there's no structure, there's just open water. It's a desert. Nothing eats, right? Where does life congregate in the ocean? Around structure, right? If structure on the bottom is making an upwelling of nutrients to the surface, as happens in the Arctic Ocean, right? You get whales, you get narwhals, you get life, you get herring, you get alewife. So get philosophical with me here, and let's pick apart the structure of bread. What is it, right? It's comprised of 4 simple ingredients. 1, flour, water, yeast, salt. 4 simple ingredients that, when combined with attention and care in the right proportions, done slowly, amazing, amazing things happen. That's why I'm so into bread. Right? It's not like I want this channel to become like, the new center of the bread universe. No, that's not the goal here. In fact, I have a lot of passions, and one of them is web development, which I'm actually doing right now in front of this camera. The camera's doing all the work, but this is something I've done for 30 years, and not too long ago, I unfortunately had my position eliminated. A reorganization at my company has left me between jobs, as they say. So I'm exploring my passions, and one of them is definitely bread. Underlying that is a deep respect for structure, because structure is how we write, is how we compose, is how we create art. It's everything that life is because of structure. How does the information of the sun get transmitted into life forms, right? How does nature grow? It's a serious question. And of course, bread is not like the universe, but you could liken it to it. You could use it as a metaphor to understand some of the mysteries of life and our place in it. All right, without getting too philosophical here, let me try to move along this video, which is, believe me, a pain, like giving birth pain. Hey, welcome to my channel. I'm Al. Happy New Year. We're here making bread again, and I'm going to go over the basics of what the channel is all about. So tell me again what the F this channel is all about. What can I say? Structure. It's all going to be about structure. It's not going to be exclusively bread. No, there's also travel and fishing. Oh, and what else? Web development. I'm a web developer for the last 30 years, and I want to share with you some of my insights and some of my tips and tricks for how to get the web to work for you. After 11 years of not going into work every day, no. Yes, it does, a little bit. I mean, you think about like fractals and how things grow, right? How do things grow? How does nature know how to grow? But you look at yeast growing in a dough, and it starts to take on these kind of characteristics that you would expect to see in like an expanding universe. I shit you not. Less of it, but
Meanwhile, back on Earth.
As far as you have, let's hopefully get into some useful content about first using a digital scale, right? Really, just seriously use a digital scale. They're just so easy and cost effective. Just go and to Amazon and get one right now. No sponsorship here. I think it's called Nicewell. Nicewell makes a really awesome one. I'll cover that in a second. Get some practice using the digital scale if you're new to making bread, especially if you're new to making sourdough. Concentrate at first on the muscle memory that you need to work with flour and baker's math. Baker's math is really simple, and I'll go through some of what I mean by hydration. Let's see, I want 80% dough, so 8 times 4, because I have 400 grams of flour that I'm planning for this loaf, so I need 320 grams of water. Let's talk a little bit about hydration and what's meant by that. Hydration simply refers to what percentage of the overall dough is comprised of water. So if the desired hydration or percentage is 75%, we would simply multiply 75 as a percentage, or 0.75, by the total weight of the flour in grams, 300 in this case, and that would give us 225 grams of water to get to a 75% hydration. Now, an important thing here is the density of water is 1 gram per milliliter. So we don't need to do any further conversion. If you have 75 grams of water, it's the same exact mass as 75 milliliters of water. Another neat thing. Hydration, or the wetness of the dough, is what allows the CO2 being produced during fermentation to completely permeate the dough, giving bread its lighter-than-air texture. For sourdough bread, the ideal hydration is between 70 and 80% normally, though some recipes go as high as 90 to 95% hydration, which is like working with pancake batter. But it can be done, and the results are stunning. The digital scale that I have pictured in is no longer being sold at Amazon, but this is the closest that they now offer on the market. It comes in black instead of the white that you're seeing, but you'll notice that it has all of the same controls with a tare button and a unit button. And it's battery operated. I've only ever had to replace the batteries a couple of times. As you can see, the price is only $20 US. It's really not all that much more expensive than measuring cups, and believe me, it's so much more precise. It takes all of the guesswork out of baking bread. Fingers adding weight. You can remove weight by hitting tare. That just sets it back to 0. Let's say you add weight and then want to remove the weight of that bowl. Hit tare again. It's back to 0. So now if you add flour into that bowl, guess what? You're measuring how much flour you're actually using in your recipe. Isn't that neat? I'll just do it from here. Hey folks, welcome to my channel. Alright, so